Captain Kim Tae-ho watched the massive asteroid slowly rotate outside his viewport. The rock was 3 kilometers wide and packed with platinum, rare earth elements, and something the scientists called quantum crystals. His ship, the Seoul Pioneer, had been mining this belt for 6 months now, and they were barely scratching the surface of what was available. "Sir, the morning reports are in," Lieutenant Park So-ra said from her station. She was young, maybe 25, with sharp eyes that missed nothing on her sensor displays. Mining Platform 7 pulled up another ton of those strange crystals, the ones that glow blue. Tae-ho nodded. Those crystals were worth more than gold back on Earth. Each one could power a city for a month. "Any problems with the extraction?" "No, sir, but Engineer Lee Dongwook wants to talk to you about upgrading the laser arrays. Says we could double our output if we install the new Mark 7 systems." Through the ship's internal speakers, Tae-ho could hear Lee humming some old Korean folk song while he worked. That man never stopped singing. Yesterday it was traditional songs. Today it sounded like something his grandmother might have sung. Lee had been with the mining corps for 15 years and knew more about asteroid extraction than anyone in the fleet. "Tell him to submit his recommendations," Tae-ho said. "What about those energy readings we've been picking up?" Park So-ra pulled up a holographic display showing strange wave patterns. They looked like radio signals, but not quite. More like someone was broadcasting on frequencies that shouldn't exist. "Still showing up every few hours, sir. Same pattern, same intensity. Earth Command says they're probably just solar flares or maybe magnetic field fluctuations from that Pulsar 2 systems over." "Probably," Tae-ho agreed, though something about the readings bothered him. They were too regular, too organized. Natural phenomena didn't usually repeat the same pattern 47 times in a row. 3 sectors away, in a part of space where no human had ever traveled, something extraordinary was happening. The Galactic Confederation's High Council had gathered in emergency session aboard their massive flagship, the Eternal Harmony. The ship was the size of a small moon, built from living crystal that pulsed with soft pink light. Admiral Vextal stood before a circular chamber filled with representatives from 100 different worlds. His species looked like giant octopi crossed with jellyfish, with translucent skin that glowed different colors, depending on his emotions. Right now, those colors were deep red and orange, showing his frustration. "We have transmitted the Universal Protocol 17 times," he announced to the assembly. His voice didn't come through sound waves, but directly into the minds of everyone present. Every civilized species in the galaxy understands this message. It is hardwired into consciousness itself. When we send the cessation notice, all expansion stops immediately. The chamber filled with worried murmurs from creatures that looked nothing like humans. Some had multiple heads, others breathed methane, and a few existed as pure energy contained in mechanical shells. But they all shared one thing in common. They had all received and obeyed the Universal Protocol when they first encountered the Confederation thousands of years ago. "What is different about these humans?" asked Councillor Thexmar, a being that resembled a walking tree with silver, bark and leaves that chimed like bells when she moved. Vextal's tentacles twisted in patterns that showed deep confusion. "They appear to be immune. Our psychic transmissions should fill their minds with overwhelming fear and the absolute need to submit to galactic law. Instead, they continue their activities as if we do not exist." Meanwhile, back in human space, life continued normally. Commander Choi Hee-jin sat in her office at Lunar Station, reviewing applications for the next wave of colony ships. The paperwork was endless, but someone had to make sure the families heading to new worlds had everything they needed. Tau Ceti. "System looks promising," she muttered to herself, stamping another approval form. "Good planet, stable star, plenty of room for expansion." She had no idea that 3 different alien species considered Tau Ceti their sacred territory. On Earth, President Yang Ji-woo was dealing with more mundane problems. The terraforming projects on Mars were behind schedule, and the environmental groups were complaining about mining operations in the asteroid belt. She signed a bill requiring better safety standards for space workers, completely unaware that her signature was being monitored by invisible alien observers who interpreted every human action as a potential threat. Back on the Eternal Harmony, Admiral Vextal was growing desperate. The psychic broadcasters were running at maximum power, sending waves of mental energy across hundreds of light years. The transmission was so strong it should have knocked every human unconscious and filled their dreams with visions of surrender. Instead, engineer Lee Dong-wook finished calibrating his mining lasers and started humming a different song. Something cheerful about spring flowers and mountain streams. The alien message passed right through his mind like it was empty space. Vextal's aide, a creature that looked like a floating crystal with tentacles of pure light, drifted closer to the Admiral. Perhaps they require a more direct approach. It suggested, its thoughts tinged with concern. The Admiral's bioluminescent patches flashed bright red. In his species, that color meant anger and the promise of violence. Their arrogance will not stand, he declared. No species ignores the Confederation. If they will not listen to words, they will learn through consequences. He turned to address the High Council, his colors shifting to the deep purple that meant absolute determination. Prepare the enforcement fleet. It is time these humans learned their place in the Galactic Order. Dr. Yoon Min-seo pushed her glasses up her nose as she stared at the holographic display floating in front of her desk. The research station, Galileo's Dream, orbited Jupiter at a safe distance, far enough to avoid the planet's crushing radiation, but close enough to study the gas giant's mysterious properties. What she was looking at now had nothing to do with Jupiter and everything to do with something that shouldn't exist. Han, come look at this, she called to her assistant. Researcher Han Woo-jin was 28, brilliant with quantum physics, and had the annoying habit of eating instant noodles at his workstation. He floated over in the low gravity, still holding his chopsticks. The energy readings again? He asked, slurping noodles. They're changing, Min-seo said, pointing at the swirling patterns of light. Look at timestamp 1432. The frequency jumps. Exactly 0.7 terahertz. Holds for 30 seconds, then drops back down. That's not random. That's intentional. The patterns look like nothing in any textbook. Waves of energy that seem to bend space itself, creating ripples that their instruments could barely detect. Over the past 3 weeks, they had recorded 17 different types of these anomalies. Each one was unique, but they all shared the same underlying structure. It's almost like someone's trying to talk to us, Han said, finishing his noodles, but using physics that don't make sense, like trying to send radio signals through solid rock. Min-seo nodded. That was exactly what bothered her. The energy signatures appeared to be some kind of communication system, but they operated on principles that human science said were impossible. What if they're not impossible? What if we just don't understand the technology yet? You think someone's actually trying to contact us? Maybe. Or maybe they're weapons. Min-seo pulled up another display, showing energy intensity levels. Look at this spike from yesterday. Whatever generated that signal has more power than our entire fusion reactor. Han's expression grew serious. Should we report this to Earth Command? Already did. But you know how the military thinks. First question they asked was whether we could defend against it. Min-seo gestured toward a corner of the lab where a team of engineers was building something that looked like a giant metal umbrella. That's our new electromagnetic shielding array. If these signals are some kind of weapon, this should block them. The shield generator hummed with contained energy. It used principles borrowed from their ship's deflector systems, designed to push away cosmic radiation and small meteors. But Min-seo had modified it to create a bubble of twisted space-time around the station. Anything trying to penetrate that bubble would find its energy scattered and reflected back into space. She had no idea that 3 sectors away, Admiral Vextel was watching her work through long-range sensors and misinterpreting every detail. They are strengthening their mental defenses, he reported to the Confederation High Council. His tentacles writhed in patterns that showed deep concern. This is not the behavior of a species that misunderstands our communications. This is deliberate preparation for psychological warfare. The council chamber aboard the Eternal Harmony buzzed with worried thoughts from 100 different species. Councillor Thexmar's silver leaves chimed like warning bells. Perhaps we should attempt physical contact, she suggested. Impossible, Vextel replied. Our psychological profiles indicate they are apex predators. Direct contact would likely result in immediate violence. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Kim Soo-jin sat in a briefing room deep beneath the Pentagon. The walls were lined with screens showing real-time data from every human colony and outpost. What she was seeing made her very uncomfortable. "Show me the pattern analysis again," she ordered. Colonel Lee Jae-sung, her intelligence chief, pulled up a three-dimensional map of human space. Red dots marked locations where the energy anomalies had appeared. 23 separate incidents over the past month, General. Every major colony, every mining operation, every military outpost. Someone is conducting systematic reconnaissance. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. The energy signatures appeared first near Earth, then gradually spread outward to each human settlement in order of strategic importance. Whoever was behind this knew exactly where humanity's key assets were located. "Could be pirates," suggested Major Park Kyung-ho from his seat at the intelligence table. "Some of the outer colonies have reported strange ships on their sensor edges." "Pirates don't have this kind of technology," Soo-jin replied. "These energy readings are beyond anything we've seen. We're talking about civilization-level resources." Lee Jae-sung nodded grimly. "My assessment is that we're dealing with a previously unknown alien civilization. They've been watching us for weeks, mapping our defenses, studying our capabilities. This is textbook pre-invasion reconnaissance." General Kim Soo-jin made her decision quickly. She had not survived 30 years in the military by ignoring obvious threats. "Double all patrol schedules immediately. I want our defensive platforms online and fully armed. Recall the Third Fleet from the exploration mission and position them to protect the core worlds." "What about the colonies?" asked Major Park. "Fortify everything. If someone wants to test humanity's resolve, they're going to find out we don't back down easily." Across human space, the response was swift and coordinated. Cargo ships were converted to carry additional weapons. Mining platforms deployed defensive satellites. Colony ships traveling to new worlds suddenly found themselves escorted by military vessels bristling with missiles and energy cannons. To the Confederation observers, the human response confirmed their worst fears. This wasn't a species that retreated when threatened. Instead, they were displaying classic predator behavior, marking territory, gathering their pack, preparing to defend their hunting grounds with overwhelming force. Admiral Vextal watched the human fleet movements from his command center and felt something his species rarely experienced: genuine fear. "Look at their formation patterns," he said to his aide. "They're not creating defensive perimeters. They're positioning themselves to strike outward." His aide, the crystalline being called Zeph-Hai, pulsed with nervous energy. "Perhaps they misunderstood our intentions." "No," Vextal said, his bioluminescent patches flickering between red and deep purple. "They understand perfectly. They're not just ignoring our warnings, they're preparing to hunt us." The misunderstanding was complete. Humans thought they were facing an unknown threat and prepared accordingly. The Confederation thought they were facing apex predators, marking territory for expansion. Both sides were getting ready for a war that neither truly wanted, driven by communication failures and evolutionary psychology that neither species understood. In her lab orbiting Jupiter, Dr. Yoon Min-seo continued studying the energy patterns, unaware that her defensive shield project was being interpreted as preparation for psychic warfare. The signals were getting stronger every day, more complex, more urgent. Whatever was sending them was definitely trying to communicate something. She just wished she knew what. Captain Oh Sung-hoon stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Incheon. Thunder, watching the stars wheel past as his fleet moved through the Proxima Centauri system. 15 ships followed in his wake, their hulls gleaming silver against the black of space. Each vessel was armed with the latest human military technology: plasma cannons, nuclear missiles, and energy shields that could deflect anything short of a direct asteroid impact. The formation they flew would have been familiar to any naval officer from Earth's history. The flagship led from the front, with cruisers spread in a wide V-shape behind it, and destroyers prowling the edges like hunting wolves. It was an aggressive pattern, designed not for defense but for rapid attack. When this formation encountered an enemy, it could close distance quickly and bring overwhelming firepower to bear. "Status report," Sung-hoon called out to his bridge. "Crew, all ships holding formation, sir," replied his tactical officer, Commander Lee Min-jun. "Sensors are clear except for those strange energy readings we've been tracking." Lieutenant Commander Park Ji-young's voice crackled over the comm system from her ship, the Busan Guardian. "Captain, we're picking up those anomalies again. Same. Frequencies, same patterns. Whatever's generating them is definitely following our patrol route." Sung-hoon nodded calmly. For 3 months now, his fleet had been detecting these mysterious energy signatures during their routine patrols. Always the same, always at the edge of sensor range, always disappearing when they tried to investigate. His intelligence officers thought it might be some kind of advanced reconnaissance system. "Any change in intensity?" he asked. "Actually, yes, sir. They're getting stronger, almost like whoever's sending them is getting frustrated that we're not responding." "Maintain course," Sung-hoon ordered without hesitation. "If something wants to watch us, let it watch. We have a job to do." This response would have shocked most species in the galaxy. When faced with unknown signals from invisible observers, the normal reaction was to flee, hide, or at least change course to avoid detection. Humans did the opposite. They continued their patrol as if the watchers didn't matter, occasionally even adjusting their route to give the mysterious observers a better view of their capabilities. What the humans didn't, though, was that their every movement was being analyzed by Confederation scout ships stationed just outside sensor range. These vessels were marvels of alien technology, built from crystalline materials that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. Their crews had been watching human military operations for weeks, and what they saw terrified them. "They move like hunters," reported Scout Commander Velthar to his superiors. His species resembled giant praying mantises with gossamer wings and compound eyes that could see across multiple spectrums. Look at their formation patterns. Every ship positioned for maximum strike capability. No defensive posturing at all. The human fleet swept through the asteroid belt around Proxima Centauri like they owned it. Mining ships followed in their wake, giant vessels equipped with fusion cutters that could slice through solid rock. The humans weren't just patrolling. They were claiming territory, marking it as theirs with industrial activity and military presence. "Sir," called out Ensign Kim Hae-young from her navigation station, "long-range sensors are picking up movement in the outer system. Could be natural debris, but the trajectory seems deliberate." Captain Sung-hoon studied the sensor readings. Whatever was out there was maintaining distance, staying just at the edge of detection. Professional instincts told him it was probably reconnaissance, but he had his orders. The 3rd Colonial Defense Fleet was here to show the flag and protect human interests. Running away from every suspicious contact would defeat the purpose. "Continue standard patrol pattern," he ordered, "but keep an eye on our mysterious friends out there." The casual confidence in his voice carried across the comm channels to every ship in the fleet. His crew heard no fear, no uncertainty, just the steady determination of a predator that knew it held the advantage. This psychological profile, apex predator behavior, was exactly what the Confederation observers were trained to recognize and fear. Far away on the Confederation homeworld of Keth Prime, the High Council was reviewing these reports with growing panic. The planet itself was a work of art, with cities grown from living crystal that sang in harmony with the wind. Its inhabitants had evolved from prey species, and every instinct they possessed screamed danger when they analyzed human behavior. Patterns. "They've doubled their colony ship production in the past month," reported Councillor Thexmar, her silver leaves chiming with distress. 17 new settlements established in systems we consider contested territory. They're expanding faster than any species in recorded history. Admiral Vextal's tentacles writhed in patterns that showed deep concern. His species had been apex predators once, millions of years ago, before they evolved beyond the need for hunting. But the instincts remained, buried deep in their genetic memory. When he looked at the human behavioral patterns, those ancient instincts recognized something familiar and terrifying. "Look at their mining operations," he said, displaying holographic images of human industrial activity. "They don't just extract resources. They strip entire asteroid belts down to nothing. They consume everything in their path and move on to the next system." The images showed massive human mining platforms that could process a kilometer-wide asteroid in a matter of days. Fusion torches melted rock, while gravity processors separated useful materials from waste. What took other species months to accomplish, humans did in weeks. "This is not normal expansion," observed Councillor Zurbeck, a floating jellyfish-like being whose thoughts glowed in bioluminescent patterns. "This is consumption-based territorial claiming. They're not settling worlds, they're consuming them." The distinction was important in galactic politics. Most species expanded slowly, carefully, taking only what they needed and leaving ecosystems intact. Humans approached expansion like they approached everything else, with overwhelming efficiency and absolute commitment to results. "They show no regard for established territorial boundaries," Thexmar continued. "Our border markers, our traditional claims, our ancestral hunting grounds, they ignore all of it." "Because they don't recognize any authority but their own," Vextal concluded, his bioluminescent patches flashing the deep red that meant absolute certainty. "Every action they take sends the same message. They are the apex predators here. They're telling us we're not predators in their eyes, we're prey." The psychological impact of this realization rippled through the council chamber. Species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia suddenly found themselves facing something that treated them like food animals. The humans weren't just ignoring Confederation authority, they were dismissing it as irrelevant. Within hours of this meeting, the largest military force in Confederation history began launching from hidden bases across a dozen star systems. The enforcement fleet comprised over 300 ships, each one built with the accumulated technology of 100 different civilizations. Their mission was simple: teach humanity its place in the galactic order. Admiral Vextal stood in the command center of his flagship, watching the fleet assemble. The sight should have filled him with confidence. Instead, he felt only growing dread. In all his years of military service, he had never faced an enemy that showed such complete disregard for superior numbers and advanced technology. The humans were still out there, still patrolling, still expanding, still sending their unmistakable message: "We are not afraid of you." The morning started like any other for Captain Bei Minho aboard the patrol ship Daegu Defender. His crew was running diagnostics on their weapons systems while cruising through the Wolf 359 system, checking asteroid mining operations and ensuring safe passage for civilian cargo haulers. The ship hummed with quiet efficiency, its fusion engines pushing them through space at a steady pace. "Captain," called out sensor operator Young Soo Bin from her station, "I'm picking up some strange readings about 30,000 kilometers off our starboard bow. Energy signatures don't match anything in our database." Minho walked over to look at her displays. The readings showed 3 objects moving in formation, too large to be asteroids, but too organized to be natural phenomena. "Can you get a visual?" "Working." "On it, sir. Whatever they are, they're using some kind of stealth technology. Our scanners are having trouble locking on." Before Young could enhance the image, space around the Daegu Defender suddenly erupted in brilliant flashes of blue-white energy. The ship shuddered as alien weapons struck its hull, tearing through armor plating and sending sparks flying across the bridge. The lights flickered as emergency systems kicked in. "Hull breach on Deck 7, shouted Engineering Officer Park Dong-hyun over the comm system. "We're venting atmosphere." Minho gripped his command chair as another wave of energy. Beams slammed into his ship. Through the viewports, he could see 3 sleek vessels materializing out of nothing, their hulls glowing with the same crystalline light they had seen in the energy anomaly reports. These had to be the aliens everyone had been speculating about, all. "Hands to battle stations," Minho ordered. "Return fire." The Daegu Defender's plasma cannons swiveled toward the attacking ships and opened fire. Bolts of superheated matter streaked across space, striking the lead alien vessel and causing its shields to flare with rainbow colors. But instead of continuing the engagement, the alien ships immediately began to pull back, putting distance between themselves and the human patrol vessel. This was not what Captain Minho expected. In every wargame and training simulation, enemies either pressed their attack to finish off a damaged ship or tried to negotiate. They didn't just hit and run like space pirates. "Sir?" reported Lieutenant Park Ye-jin from the tactical station. "The alien ships are retreating. They're moving away at high speed." "Like hell they are," Min-ho growled, ignoring the smoke filling his bridge and the red warning lights flashing. "Everywhere. All ships pursue and engage. Don't let them establish range." His small patrol fleet consisted of just 4 vessels, but every captain immediately responded. The Busan Thunder, Seoul Guardian, and Gwangju Striker formed up behind the damaged Daegu Defender and accelerated after the fleeing aliens. Lieutenant Park Ye-jin worked frantically at her console, using every sensor array the ship had to track the enemy vessels. "Sir, I'm reading their engine signatures now. The energy patterns are unique. Quantum displacement drives, maybe. I can follow their trail back to wherever they came from." "Do it," Min-ho ordered, without hesitation. "I want to know where these things are coming from." What the humans didn't realize was that their response had sent Admiral Vextal into a state of complete panic. Aboard his flagship, Eternal Harmony, he watched the tactical displays showing human ships pursuing his forces with growing horror. "This is impossible," he said to his aide, Zeph-hai. "We conducted a precision strike to demonstrate our superior technology. They should be requesting negotiations or attempting to flee. Instead, the human ships were gaining ground on his retreating forces. The alien admiral had expected the humans to be stunned by their first contact with advanced Confederation technology. Most species spent days or weeks analyzing alien encounters before taking any action. Humans had started shooting back within seconds and were now hunting his ships across the star system. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, a spider-like creature with multiple arms that worked several control stations simultaneously. "The human vessels are tracking our warp signatures. They appear to be following our ships back toward the staging area." Vextal's tentacles writhed in patterns that showed pure terror. The staging area contained supply ships, medical vessels, and engineering support craft, all lightly armed civilian vessels that couldn't survive combat with military ships. "Signal all non-combat units to disperse immediately," he ordered. "Maximum warp, random headings." But it was too late. Lieutenant Park Ye-jin had already identified the energy signatures of 17 different Confederation vessels scattered across 3 star systems. Her computers were mapping their positions, analyzing their movement patterns, and building a complete picture of the alien logistics network. "Captain," she reported with satisfaction, "I've got their entire supply chain mapped. Looks like they've got fuel depots here, and here," she said, pointing at locations on her tactical display, "maintenance facilities in the outer system, and what looks like a mobile command base hiding behind that gas giant." Meanwhile, Commander Seo Kyung-suk received the battle reports aboard her heavy cruiser Incheon Hammer, which had been patrolling 2 systems away. Within minutes of the first shots being fired, she was coordinating the human response across 5 different star systems. "Deploy the 7th Squadron to intercept their supply convoys," she ordered her operations officer, Major Cho Hwan-seok. "Position the 12th Squadron to cut off their retreat routes. I want every alien ship in this sector trapped within the hour." Her tactical display showed the developing battle like a 3-dimensional chess game. The alien ships were pulling back to defensive positions exactly where human military doctrine predicted they would retreat. Their formations prioritized protection over offense, creating maximum distance between themselves and the pursuing human forces. "Look at their movement patterns," she observed to Major Cho. "They fight like herbivores. All their maneuvers are about creating distance and avoiding contact. They're not used to being hunted." This observation proved correct as the battle developed. Every time human ships closed range, the alien vessels would retreat to longer distances where their energy weapons had an advantage. But the humans countered by using their superior numbers and speed to surround the aliens, cutting off escape routes and forcing them into increasingly desperate maneuvers. "They're trying to break contact," reported Major Cho, watching alien ships scatter in different directions. "Standard prey behavior, split up, and hope some of us escape." But humans had been persistence hunters for millions of years of evolution. They didn't give up when prey scattered. They picked targets and followed them until exhaustion forced surrender or death. Captain Bae Min-ho, his ship trailing atmosphere and debris, continued pursuing the alien vessel that had attacked him first. His crew worked frantically to repair, damage while maintaining pursuit, but no one suggested breaking off the chase. "Sir," reported Engineer Park Dong-hyun, "we've got the hull breach sealed, but we're down to 60% power and our weapons are operating at half capacity." "Keep firing," Minho ordered. "Don't let them think we're backing down." This relentless pursuit behavior spread throughout the human fleet like a contagious fever. Every ship captain, every crew member understood that showing weakness now would invite more attacks later. The aliens had struck first, and now they would learn what happened when you picked a fight with humanity. Aboard the Confederation ships, panic was setting in. Species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia found themselves being hunted by creatures that seemed to have no concept of retreat or surrender. The humans fought like the ancient predators from their homeworld's distant past, creatures that never stopped pursuing prey until it was brought down. "They're not breaking off," reported one Confederation captain in a transmission filled with static and fear. "We've been running for 6 hours, and they're still following us." "How is this possible?" Admiral Vextel had no answer. In all his centuries of military service, he had never encountered an enemy that simply refused to stop fighting. The humans were demonstrating the behavior of apex predators, species that knew no fear because they had never been prey. The realization hit him like a cold shock. Humanity wasn't just refusing to submit to Confederation authority. They were actively hunting the most powerful military force in the known galaxy. Cryptographer Lee Soo-min hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her workstation aboard the intelligence ship Seoul Insight was covered with empty coffee cups and crumpled papers filled with alien symbols. For 3 weeks, ever since the shooting started, she had been trying to decode the Confederation's communication systems. What she discovered changed everything. "Admiral Kim," she called out excitedly, her voice echoing through the ship's command center. "I've got it. I finally cracked their communication protocols." Admiral Kim Dae-hyun looked up from his tactical displays where he had been planning the next phase of military operations. His fleet was currently surrounding a group of Confederation ships near the Vega system, preparing for what everyone expected to be the final battle of this strange war. "What did you find?" Kim asked, walking over to Lee's workstation. "Sir, they've been trying to talk to us for months," she said, pointing at streams of decoded text flowing across her screens. "These energy anomalies we've been detecting. They weren't weapons tests or reconnaissance, they were messages, actual attempts at communication." Kim leaned closer to read the translations. What he saw made his blood run cold. Surrender demands. Territorial cessation orders. He looked at Lee with growing understanding. "They think we've been ignoring them on purpose." "That's exactly what they think, sir. Look at this message from 2 months ago." Lee pulled up a particularly long transmission. "It's basically saying stop your expansion immediately and submit to galactic authority or face total annihilation. They sent this same message 47 times. The irony hit Kim like a physical blow. While humans had been interpreting the energy signatures as potential threats and preparing defenses, the aliens had been sending increasingly desperate demands for surrender. Each side had been talking past the other for months. "Can we send a reply they'll understand?" Kim asked. Lee shook her head. "Not through their psychic channels. Our brains don't work that way, but Admiral—" She paused, a strange expression crossing her face. "I think we've been communicating the whole time, just not the way they expected." "What do you mean?" "Every action we've taken, every military movement, every defensive preparation, it's all been sending them a message. We've been telling them exactly who we are and what we're capable of." Meanwhile, aboard the research vessel, Gwangju Explorer, Dr. Jang Hai-won was making her own breakthrough. As a xenobiologist, she had been studying the behavioral patterns of the Confederation forces, trying to understand their psychology and predict their next moves. "Look at their formation patterns," she explained to her research team, displaying holographic models of alien ship movements. "Every time we engage them, they immediately try to create distance. They prioritize defense over offense. They retreat, tow predetermined positions and wait for us to approach." Her assistant, Dr. Park Min-seok, nodded thoughtfully. "Classic prey species behavior. They're evolved from animals that survived by avoiding predators, not by fighting them." "Exactly." And look at their communication attempts. Zhang pulled up recordings of the psychic transmissions. These aren't negotiations between equals. These are dominance displays from a species trying to establish hierarchical control without physical confrontation. Like animals marking territory, Park observed. Right, but here's the important part. They understand threat displays perfectly. Their entire psychology is built around recognizing and responding to shows of strength from apex predators. Within hours, Dr. Zhang's analysis reached President Yu Yun's Seo on Earth. The president convened an emergency meeting of the Defense Council to discuss this new information. So you're telling me, President Yu said, that instead of fighting a war, we've been having a miscommunication with a species that thinks like prey animals? That's correct, Madam President, replied General Kim Soo-jin via secure video link. Our xenobiologist believes we can end this conflict by demonstrating controlled strength followed by an offer of cooperation. How do we do that? We surround their remaining forces completely, show them we could destroy them if we wanted to, then offer them a peaceful alternative. President Yu authorized the new approach immediately. Across human space, fleet commanders received new orders. Instead of engaging in direct combat, human ships began complex maneuvers designed to trap the Confederation forces without actually attacking them. Commander Seo Kyung-suk coordinated the operation from her flagship Incheon Hammer. On her tactical display, she watched as human ships formed an ever-tightening net around the alien fleet. The Confederation vessels tried to break out several times, but each escape route was already blocked by human forces. Perfect positioning, she reported to Admiral Kim. We have them completely surrounded. They can't move without our permission, but we're not threatening immediate attack. The message was clear in the ancient language of predator and prey. We are stronger than you. We could destroy you, but we choose not to. Aboard the Confederation flagship Eternal Harmony, Admiral Vextal finally understood what had been happening. His tentacles writhed in patterns that showed not fear, but amazement and grudging respect. They're not ignoring our communications. He reported to the High Council through quantum transmission. They've been answering us the entire time. Every military action, every defensive preparation, every pursuit of our forces, it was all communication. What kind of communication? Asked Councillor Thexmar, her silver leaves chiming with confusion. The kind that apex predators use, Vextal replied. They've been telling us we are not afraid of you, we will defend our territory. We will hunt you if you threaten us, but we are willing to coexist if you respect our strength. The realization spread through the Confederation High Council like ripples in a pond. For the first time in millennia, they were dealing with a species that communicated through actions rather than psychic impressions. Humans didn't send messages about their capabilities. They demonstrated them. Look at their current positioning, Vextal continued, sharing his tactical displays with the Council. They have us completely surrounded. They could destroy our entire fleet within minutes. But they're not attacking, they're waiting. Waiting for what? For us to understand the message. Submit or be destroyed, but also submit and be protected. The first Human Confederation Treaty was unlike anything in galactic history. There were no elaborate ceremonies, no psychic bonding rituals, no complex, legal documents spanning thousands of pages. Instead, Admiral Vextal simply transmitted a message of acknowledgement and respect, while human forces pulled back to non-threatening positions. The agreement was simple. Confederation forces would recognize human territorial claims and sovereignty. Human forces would provide protection for Confederation trade routes and colonies. Both sides would establish formal diplomatic relations and begin cultural exchange programs. 3 months later, Captain Kim Tae-ho, now promoted to Admiral, stood on the bridge of his new flagship, watching something that would have been impossible just a year earlier. Human cargo ships traveled in convoy with Confederation vessels, their hulls gleaming side by side as they headed toward the asteroid mining operations around Kepler 442. Any interesting messages today? He asked Lieutenant Park Sora, who had been promoted to his new communications officer. Just routine trade confirmations, sir, she replied, monitoring both human radio frequencies and the newly developed psychic translation systems. Oh, and Admiral Vextal sent his compliments on our mining efficiency. He says the Confederation is impressed by how quickly we can strip an asteroid belt. Tejo smiled as he watched a Confederation science vessel conducting joint research with human xenobiologists. The aliens were finally learning that humans communicated best through actions rather than words. They showed who they were by what they did, not by what they said. Signal the convoy, he ordered. Tell them they have safe passage through our space, and remind Admiral Vextal that our next joint operation starts tomorrow. Yes, sir. Anything else? Tejo looked out at the stars, where human and alien ships worked together in perfect harmony. No. I think we've said everything that needs saying. Sometimes, the best communication was simply showing who you were through what you did. And humanity had shown the galaxy exactly what they were. Not conquerors or destroyers, but protectors who demanded respect and offered friendship in return. Chapter Torn.